Welcome back to Brashonomics. We were just talking about the things that can go wrong when you think something may be true, but it isn't, or you believe a lie. And, when people go into their potential dream home, there is no doubt that they want everything to be perfect. Jim Estrada joins us, who's been inspecting homes for almost 10 years and performed over 3,500 inspections. Welcome back, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Ben?
Good. It's good to see you. You must see that all the time, where people don't want to believe what you're saying because they want the house to be perfect. They want that house to be something maybe it's not.
Everybody wants a perfect house. No question about it. And there is no such thing as a perfect house. I think I had a perfect house at one time when I was totally done with a huge remodel, and it maybe lasted a week. And then the caulking started to separate, and the wind started to blow, the temperatures started to change, and a house is a living, breathing organism. So it's changing all the time, Ben.
So when somebody goes in and they're looking at a house, and let's even think about like people who go into maybe the city, or these older homes, as you say, if it's brand new, it might have been perfect for a week. But what are some of the hazards that old homes present over maybe a brand new home?
Well, in the old homes, we've got a lot of issues. Last time I was here, we talked about plumbing. Some of the big hazards that people are always concerned about is because they're much more health hazards are asbestos, and lead, and those are big areas of concern. Asbestos is a mineral fiber, and the big problem with it is when it becomes airborne. It actually becomes kind of a fish hook and will actually get stuck in your lungs and obviously kind of lead to lung cancer.
Wow, I did not realize that's what asbestos did. That sounds way nastier than I thought it was.
It's pretty nasty stuff, but it's the best insulator known to man. That's one of the problems with it. It's a fabulous, fabulous product, and it lasts forever. So when people come up and they see a house with asbestos siding, to me, it's a great deal because you know what? It's going to last forever. Just don't bang on it. Just don't break it. Just don't cut it. Don't make it airborne.
Hope your house doesn't burn down and you inhale the fumes.
Fumes are an issue with that. No question about it. You definitely need to just basically leave it alone if you find asbestos in the house. You're going to find it around metal pipes for heating. It's a great, great insulator. It comes in a vermiculite. It was a special product that came out of a mine in Montana that we use for insulation in the attics. And it was a great product and a great insulator, but you don't want to walk around in that attic, okay? You don't want to create dust with it. The best thing to do is just leave it alone. You can encapsulate it. You can seal it, but just don't touch it, move it, destroy it. And if you're going to do a big remodel, you also need to really bring a professional in to get rid of it because it can definitely cause some health hazards.
How do you identify asbestos? So you talk about all these forms it comes in, but I mean, everybody's heard asbestos is like this evil thing. Here you are saying it's like the greatest insulator known to mankind, which is kind of the other side of the coin, I guess. But how does we know if they have asbestos in their house?
Well, a trained professional to basically kind of come in and look at things. When I do a home inspection, just because of experience, and this is kind of what Dennis was talking about, versus a young inspector versus an older inspector, I've seen this stuff for years and years and years and been around it and had the people to, when I didn't know, call and say, gosh, what is this? And nowadays, with today's technology, I can snap a picture and shoot it over to some people that are very, very experienced, even more than I, and be able to give me an answer. So it's a great thing to find out.
So if you have it, let it be. If you need to get rid of it, find a professional. And if you're not sure what it is, snap a picture and send it to you, huh?
There you go. Or you can encapsulate it.
There you go.
Okay.
Now, what are some other hazards of old homes? One that I always hear is, lead paint. Kids eating lead paint.
Well, that's always, I think, if kids eat latex paint, it's probably going to be a problem. So, I don't know, eating paint is probably not a great idea, but keeping the kids away from eating that, no question about it.
And I have a 2-year-old now. Well, actually, he's 2 today. Today's his birthday.
Cool.
And
Happy birthday.
Hopefully he's not at home eating paint.
Yeah, definitely. Well, lead has some definite issues, and it is more of a problematic problem with little ones because their bodies digest it a little bit more. It can actually create a bunch of mental and growth issues down the road. With adults, it can create, if women are pregnant, issues there. Also, blood pressure issues. So lead can be a definite problem. Lead, again, is one of those products that you just kind of want to leave it be for the most part. If you have it, and it's going to be involved in paints, okay, and the asbestos, just so you know, those products like in the ceilings, the textured ceilings and stuff, they did that. They quit producing it basically in the late 70s, but it was also sold by the stores until the 80s. So if you have a home kind of early 80s and back, more than likely you've had either some asbestos in maybe the heat ducting in the seams, or you've got lead if there's a lot, especially if there's a lot of wood that's been painted, but definitely the walls have been painted with some lead paint. If you leave it alone, again, it's not a problem. If it's chipping or flaking, it definitely needs to be cleaned up. I think the biggest problems with lead are in places where you can actually be creating kind of a friction. Like if you have a painted handrail and you're going up and down the handrail on the stairways. If you're raising windows up and down, closing doors, and against the lead paint, it's always kind of creating a friction and making things airborne. So if you have that kind of situation, you need to wipe those things down on a regular basis. Okay, make sure after you wipe it down that you really rinse your sponge out or rag. With kids, keeping the areas clean, keeping the toys clean, making sure people are washing their hands a little more frequently.
Should you get rid of lead paint though? I mean, really, should you wipe it down or should you wipe it off? I mean, is it time to get rid of the lead paint?
Well, if you're going to get rid of lead paint, you need to hire somebody special to take it out nowadays. You don't want to sand it. You don't want to scrape it, okay? You want to just pull it off and get rid of it, okay? That's what you want to do.
The wood and everything that's that it's painted on? Or, I mean, how do you... Yeah?
That's what you would do, okay? But nowadays, I mean, really, if you, again, encapsulate it, if you have it on the walls or you have it on the trim or whatever, if you paint it with a latex paint, you're going to basically encapsulate it and kind of keep it right there.
Paint over it.
Okay, so painting over it. Now, again, the doors and the windows where you've got the friction issues, those things might be a little more tempting to replace. But overall, again, it comes to just basic common sense in terms of if you have it.
We're here with Jim Estrada, owner and lead inspector of Property Inspector LLC. Jim, what are some of the other big ones? In fact, we talked about all of these things going airborne and the potential for fumes and fires. Are there big electrical issues that come up with older houses?
Well, knob and tube wiring is probably one of the biggest issues, and knob and tube wiring itself was an absolutely fantastic product at its time.
I love how you love all this stuff. It's like, these are the most dangerous things, but they're fantastic.
Well, you know what? One of the things that it's always the little teeny problems that become the loudest vocally, okay? And so if somebody has a fire, they blame it on knob and tube wiring. Well, they don't blame it on the fact that, you know what, the homeowner made a bunch of connections that weren't good connections, or they came in and they blew in insulation in the attic. Well, the beautiful thing about knob and tube wiring is it can actually handle more power than today's wiring because it is free in the air. It's spaced out about 4 to 6 inches apart from each other in terms of the hot and the neutral wires, so it can handle a lot more electricity. It can handle a lot more heat. But then you insulate it, and you eliminate the ability for it to do that, okay? Now, it was also designed for about a 60-amp system. Back in the 30s and 40s when we really had knob and tube wiring, we had appliances like, maybe a coffee maker, a teapot. We didn't have hair dryers and computers and TVs, and we didn't have hardly refrigerators that like we do today, stoves and those kinds of things, microwaves that are just pulling all kinds of juice. So now we're taking a 200-amp system, we're running it into the house, and then we're connecting it to wires that were designed to take 60 amps. So, if the system is in good shape, okay, and that's where a licensed electrician needs to take a look at it. If it hasn't been tampered with, it's probably going to be fine. The big question is, what's the insurance company going to say? A lot of insurance companies are getting to a point where they don't want to see it in the house because they know that typically the homeowner has played with it, they've insulated it, they've damaged it. And once that's happened, it becomes a fire issue.
Yeah, and that, I guess, makes sense why insurance companies don't want fire issues.
Exactly.
Jim, it's great to see you, and it is funny when you say all these things really did have their day.
They did.
And to look at it now, of course, it goes to show that when certain things can be really good for a time, and they run their course. Kind of like we don't have a lot of horses or bayonets in the Army anymore, do we?
That's true, but Dennis keeps getting better and better, doesn't he?
That's right. You got it. Hey, Jim, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. When we come back, Matthew Roy will join us. We'll be back after this break.